3. We'll take knight 3. Alright, welcome everybody. This is once again Grandmaster Aleksandr Lenderman, and here to present to you a lecture on how to play, on some romantic games that have been played in the history of chess. Last time we've seen some of Stanis's games, Fischer's game. Today we're gonna take a look at some more famous Immortals. And we're going to start with the game Edward Lasker against Thomas. It's kind of a famous game, so maybe some of you have seen it before. But, okay, so this was a Dutch defense. And here I think black should play d5 or bishop b4 to prevent the idea that white did in the game. But, in the game he played bishop e7. And now, how would you continue here with white? To try to play for an edge.
Well, I'm just thinking of basic continuing development, but there must be some strategic, tactical maneuver.
I'll think about it logically. What do you think, d5 or bishop b4 would have prevented what idea?
Moving of either e4 or moving the knight.
Um.
Well, let's see.
So, any ideas, anyone?
Okay, there's a move right here that's saying that it's the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for something spectacular.
Well, I mean, it's not like something that's like brilliant yet. It's just, you're gonna try to find a way to get a slight advantage, but not, winning our game or anything. Black hasn't done anything so bad. Just, focus on the center. Try to get more grip on the center somehow.
Well, queen to d2.
Yeah, queen d2 you can play. Again, it's a normal developing move, but then I'll just castle and I'll be fine. Even queen d3, I can go d5. So what do you think, was the reason why d5 maybe was good? Because we're trying to then take on f6 and then just go e4. Because if we go e4, then he takes with the knight. So we get rid of the knight. Normally, it's not what we want to do, give up the bishop for the knight, but here we're concretely going for e4, getting full control over the center, and we're also trying to open up the game because his king is slightly weakened, right? So that's why the idea is very, very logical.
So the point was to take the knight first with the bishop and then e4.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So
yeah.
I mentioned e4, but it didn't look good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes, a good idea to keep in mind is if you see a certain idea, just transpose the move order, and sometimes that might work. So e4, f takes, knight takes, b6. Okay, so now I think the most natural move would have been to go bishop d3. Just normal developing move. But, white played knight e5. Now, interestingly enough, is after knight e5, that's kind of the reason why white won the brilliancy, but objectively speaking, black was fine here. So black castled, and now he played bishop d3. Okay, so now what should black do here in this position? What do you think? Black, what should black do in this position?
Well, the knights and the bishop and the queen are starting to look pretty menacing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so bishop to b7 at least to challenge the pieces.
Bishop b7, which was played in the game, and it's still okay, but there's something in the position that's better. Once again, you have to look at the, every line, every reasonable line, at least 2, potentially 3 moves deep. Because here, yeah, if you see the line, 2-3 moves deep, then you'll be able to figure it out. But Of course, if you stop, after one move, you're not going to find it because positionally, again, it looks like not the best move, but it does the job. It's a very concrete move.
Does D5 do anything?
D5, I think, is possible, but I think after I take, how are you going to capture back?
With a pawn?
Ah, okay, you want to go... Yeah, I mean, I guess you could try to do that, but I think I can go queen h5 or queen g4 may be better, and then queen h4. I think it would be a little bit dangerous, just too many ideas.
Yeah.
Too many ideas for white.
So then the queen?
Yeah, but if you take with the queen, then after I castle, you're just stuck with a very bad structure. Knight on e5 is completely dominating. The bishop is bad. The knight is on an outpost, so just positionally, it's not good. I mean, unless you would have something very concrete, it wouldn't work. So d5 is one of these moves which it's not very challenging, and it weakens a lot of squares. C5, I think it might be too slow because I think I can still try my queen h5 idea.
So how about d6? We can't allow the strong knight to stay on e5.
D6, probably I can... Yeah, I mean, all these moves are fine, but in this position, black has a move that actually, believe it or not, gives him an advantage. It's very unusual, but we have to always consider checks, then captures, then threats. So we have to look at this move, even though it looks like not a very pretty move, letting the pawn get here, queen h5, removing the defender, but it's still concrete. We gotta look at moves like that. And now we gotta look at, again, checks, captures, threats. How can we attack this pawn? Yes, we can. We can go knight c6, attack this pawn, which is now a little bit loose. And we can develop and attack at the same time. And believe it or not, black is just doing very well. Now, there's only one way, logical way, he can defend the pawn, is by queen h5. But now, after simply rook f5, we just win the pawn. So in fact, black was just much better. Now, this is very easy to overlook because you think, okay, this is just not a move that you look at because it's just so unusual. It's like an invisible move. Because, okay, it's...
So are we saying that Lasker overlooked this?
I think so. I think, I mean, this was I think one of these exhibition games, so it was... but as oftentimes happens in the absolute brilliancies, they start out actually not perfect, but they're created by opponents even less perfection in some ways. So actually, but this is still good to notice these kind of moments because, during the game, you can get an opportunity like that during the game, and it's very important to take advantage of such opportunities to be able to win a pawn like that. But instead, black continued normally with development, queen h5, and now, he made a mistake. He played queen e7. And that was a mistake. So who can tell us what should white play in this position? So hopefully somebody who hasn't seen the game before. So has anyone already seen the game before? You have, right? Okay.
A long time ago, and I don't remember. So.
Okay, so I'll give you guys a few minutes. See if you could find the idea. Yes? Knight 6, I take with the pawn. Yeah. So that's why he played queen e7. But queen e7 stops one idea, but it doesn't stop another very brilliant idea.
Knight to g5. Does that work?
Knight g5, very interesting. What if I go g6?
So can the bishop still take it?
Yeah, could, but I think I have a few choices here. I can take on g5, let's say.
You're saying that this does not work?
No.
Yeah.
No, I was just letting you kind of figure it out, but... Yeah, so it's actually, yeah.
Well, okay, so knight to d6.
Knight d6. Okay, I still play g. Oh, no, sorry. Mouse slipped. I mean, even in this line, the problem is your knight will get trapped there somehow, and this is kind of... Yeah, so but... And anyway, there might be something better than just being like up a pawn in an endgame or something, so... Yeah, that's why in every position we gotta always look at all of our checks, captures and threats. So let's start looking at our checks. What are all of our possible checks in the position? Queen takes h7, knight takes f6, and queen f7. Well, queen f7 is of course stupid. He can take with the rook, take with the queen. Queen f7 doesn't make sense. But what about knight takes f6? We looked at a little bit. Gf, it's possible move, but it doesn't seem to win the game right away at least. What about queen takes h7? Okay, he's forced to take, and now we can do a double check. And already this is very interesting because, oh, he cannot go there because of knight g6. So then he has to go there. It's almost mate, and you're like, I mean, and now this is where we can really look deeper because it looks like, wow, the king is very, very close to getting mated. And then that's where we can realize that, okay, this maybe is worth analyzing. And in fact, white wins in a brilliant way in this position. Starting with this check, king goes up, h4, king goes up, g3, all with checks. King goes up, bishop e2, king goes up, and king d2, or you can also castle with mate, all forced with checks. So this is definitely a line that could be calculated. But in order to calculate that, you have to not just reject queen takes h7 on general principles, but at least realize that such a move works. And once we realize that this could be interesting, then the rest is a matter of execution, kind of just trying to work it out. And if you have a very, very good intuition that it might work, then you go for it. It's like, remember when I was showing that, well, actually you weren't there for the tactics lecture, but it's different. So this was how the game played out. This was a beautiful game. Edward Lasker, not even the world champion Lasker, but Edward Lasker against Thomas. All right. Now I'm going to show you a game from that Alekhine won against an unknown player, and what makes this more impressive is that it was actually a blindfold game. So Alekhine was white, and it was against NN, blindfold game, none known. And here, of course, the most natural move is to take on ED, but black played knight takes d5, which can't be too good because it keeps the bishop blocked in. And white played very creatively, played knight e4. It was also possible to go knight f3 or anything, but okay, knight e4 is interesting. And now white is a little bit better because he has more grip on the center. f5. Certainly a very risky move, weakening this square. Already h6 would be losing move because of queen h5. So bishop e7, knight back to f3. He didn't want to go like this because h6 probably. And the knight has to go here. So he played there, c6, knight e5. So he knew that he can then reposition the knights in a convenient way. That's why maybe black should have played here first. Or knight c6, but he played c6. And now both sides complete development in a normal way. All right, and here's a critical moment of the game. White to play. What should white do? Actually it does. Knight c6 does win a pawn. It's not a bad move. But, you know, as we know, in order for the game to be brilliant, we probably are looking for something maybe even more. But certain knight c6, you know, is also probably giving a very big advantage. But let's try to find a, you know, a romantic move, or a brilliant way to play. It's just a beautiful concept. That's why I wanted to.
Okay, so does knight to f7 work?
Knight f7. King takes f7. All right, let's continue.
And then knight to g5.
Knight g5 probably also works. And then, you know, you meet king g6 with queen takes e6. I'm pretty sure this also is a mate. But I like what white did even more because it's even more beautiful. He went queen takes e6, check. Because the thing is, after this is his mate, mate in 1. And if king f8, you go knight g5, and there is no way to stop the mate here. I mean, you can prolong it for a couple of moves, but, you know, it's still going to be mate. So you had to go king g6, and then white played the mate in 2. I mean, look, in this position, like, you can win in pretty much any way, but he chose g4, most elegant. Threatening mate here and threatening mate here, no defense. But of course, this is not necessary. You can also do this and do a forced mate. But again, it's like one of these beautiful combinations and kind of elegant. So I figure I'll show you this one as well. All right, now we're gonna see another one, and this one is between Rotlewi and Rubinstein. And Rubinstein was black.
Okay, this is from the black side.
Yeah, so we're finally looking at a game from the black side. I know we've mostly looked at games from the white side. Now we're going to look at a game from the black side. And I know a lot of Rubinstein fans. Okay, so this game actually started off very slowly. So as you'll see from the next few games, you can even sometimes have brilliancies that start off kind of very slowly.
So are we doing the Perreux here?
It's kind of, yeah, it's just a symmetrical structure, which, you know, has been seen a lot of times. Very often white is the one who plays like a waiting move a3, just kind of seeing what structure black wants to play. And a3 is kind of a useful move. And for example, in these positions, a3 is useful because it stops knight b4, knight d5. And you're also preparing some queen d3, bishop b4, bishop b3, bishop c2, and there's no more knight b4. And also it's useful in case of, you know, you get the bishop escape square. But okay, in this game he took first and then played a3, which is okay. Black played a6, b4, bishop d6, bishop b2, castles. And here I think white started playing a bit strangely. I think here a move like rook c1 is okay, or a move like cd. But he played a move queen d2, which I think is not very good.
Is the white move to a c5 okay?
C5 might be playable as well. I mean, I'll go here, and then you play like bishop e2.
Yeah.
It might be playable. I'm not sure, but this, of course, you know, you're giving up the center, so it's a little bit more double-edged. So I like the move of keeping the tension, rook c1, and seeing what black does. Queen d2 was played, queen e7. Bishop d3. And now it seems like, yeah, after b5, bishop b7, black is getting the more comfortable side of equality. And then as you saw queen d2, then he later ended up losing a tempo to go queen e2. So it's pretty clear that queen d2 was not great. So now black is playing knight e5, does two things: removes the defender and also opening up the nice diagonal for this bishop. Knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, f4, bishop c7. Of course, he doesn't really want to trade, so bishop c7, because otherwise he gets two bishops and the bishop is going to be very nice in this long diagonal. So he went here, e4, rook c8, e5, here. and knight g4. So the idea being after this, we go rook takes d3, and we get two bishops and pressure on the d file, threatening rook c3, and just a lot of good things happening for black. So white played bishop e4. All right, how do we continue the attack in this position?
Well, the natural move would be queen h4.
Yeah, knight takes h2, by the way, was also a viable option. But queen h4 is a good move as long as you see the follow-up. So g3. And this is the critical moment of the game. How does black display, the crushing attack? Seems like white has everything under control. But Rubinstein, when he played queen h4, he saw deeper. So, any ideas? I'll give you a few minutes here.
So that's something to do with rook c takes the knight.
Rook takes c3 is the correct first move. Yes. Removal of the guard. So one line is easy to calculate. If you go here, you just take on g3 and it's crushing. And if you take here, you take on e4 and you're winning on h2. The big moment is, of course, what happens if you take the queen. And this move has to be also seen before you even play queen h4. Otherwise, it might seem okay. You gave up the queen, but where's the attack? But this next move is absolute key move to the whole attack.
Is it rook to d2?
Absolutely, that is correct move. Because now, no matter what white does, he's just losing. First of all, if you take the knight, taking here, and here you're going to end up a rook. So taking the knight loses. Taking the rook was played in the game. If you take this rook, I was also threatening this, by the way. So rook d2 also comes with a very big threat. So white is in huge trouble. If you take this rook, I also take here.
So I was looking at rook e2 first. Why?
Looking at rook d2 in which position?
Before rook
Before
e2.
that, yeah.
In this position?
Right.
But here I can take here maybe.
Now you have to take the knight.
Okay,
Does that work?
Right.
Take the knight, but now I don't have to take your queen anymore. I can take on b7, right?
Okay.
So that's why, you have to take the knight first, because that forces the queen, trading the queens, because you're now threatening this. And only after this, you go rook d2. So the move order is, of course, very important. So white took here, here, queen here. All right, black to play. What to do?
Rook c2.
Well, rook to c2.
Yeah, I think rook c2 would also work, actually. But he played rook h3, threatening mate. And this was the end of the game. Because if you take on e4, you take on h2. And if queen e4, yeah, rook h2, and otherwise it's just winning. No way to do anything.
Well, I suppose rook to c2 takes a little longer. That's quick.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you could play like rook f. Nah, it's also winning. Yeah.
Oh, it's winning. Yeah. Rook to g1.
Rook g1, knight f2. Yeah, I mean, it's rook c2, rook h3 are both winning.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter so much. All right, so that was Rubinstein taking advantage of just a couple of inaccuracies, and suddenly black got this beautiful attack going. Okay, here's another game. Levitsky against Marshall. Another black game. Now, the opening wasn't, perfect from black, which often happens in these lines, Marshall played this move c5. It's only recommended if you go Tarrasch French, but against knight c3, I think c5 isn't very good because you could just take, and go knight f3, or even bishop e5 check. And I think here white is better. He has a lot of pressure on d5, and it's like a good version of the IQP for white. So, but in the game he played knight f3, knight c6, c d, e d, and played kind of passively with bishop e2. Black played knight f6, castles, bishop e7 here. Yeah, he doesn't take right away because d5 hangs then. So he played bishop e6. And now knight d4. Again, white should probably defend this pawn, but he played knight d4. And already black is comfortable. So it was one of these openings which white kind of played passively, didn't play most principled way, and already black got a comfortable game. But look how black takes advantage of his opportunities. All his pieces get in the game. Now potentially with threatening d4 and knight e4 stuff. Okay, queen c2, keep looking at the f2 square, and potentially bishop takes c3. Yeah, and now we're getting closer to the it's called the gold coin game actually. Because I heard that after the move that Marshall played in this game, everybody threw gold coins. Knight d4, queen h5, rook f8, g5, here, queen g5, rook takes h3, rook c5, and what does black play here?
Oh yeah, that's the one. I think I know it.
Yeah, queen g3. Although the funny thing is, even if you go queen a3 or queen b4, it's still winning, but there would not be gold coins. But in the game, queen g3 was played, and you know, there's no matter how you basically put the queen into 3 attackers, it's just pretty move, right? Because of fg, you go knight e2, and this is mate right away, and even after queen takes, you still go here, and technically it doesn't, win right away, but it's just a fancy way to trade off into a winning endgame, but it's still, perfectly good. All right, one more kind of early century game, and then we're gonna look at like more modern examples. This is a game which Morphy played with white against also an unknown player. And here we have d4 Scotch gambit against the 2 knights defense. But white played this interesting hybrid between Scotch gambit and fried liver. Now, in general, this is not supposed to be all that good for white, but black has to play precisely here. For example, if black plays the move knight e5, black is totally fine. For example, here you can go h6, and if takes, you can go takes d5, or even queen e7, and there would not be any brilliancies. Black would just be comfortable. But like I said, in order for there to be brilliancies, sometimes you have to play a little unsoundly in the beginning, an opponent to react even more unsoundly, and then that would be an opportunity for some brilliancies. So in the game, black played d5. The move is still okay, but after ed, black has to play here precisely. The best move is probably queen e7, and then you're trying to play knight e5, looking at these ideas. Black is actually slightly better here with perfect play. But then he took with the knight. And the thing about this line is, in case some of you play fried liver, there's this line of d5, ed. And then there's, of course, the main line is knight a5. There's some other lines. But if you go knight takes d5, knight takes f7 is, of course, very promising. But there's also d4. It's also a very interesting move, with the idea that after ED, then you can do a fried liver, even under better circumstances. Of course, black doesn't have to take, but then either way, white has an advantage here. So this was kind of like he got the best version of the fried liver as a result after knight takes d5, and white castled first. And the thing is, black cannot really stop any kind of knight takes f7 ideas, and now white will be perfectly ready for it. He will be castled, and it's winning. So bishop e7 was played. And knight c3. Very unusual move, but one of the ideas is just to speed up the development. Interestingly enough, you're giving up a knight just to speed up the development. So let's see the whole point of this. So ed, rook e1, knight e5, bishop f4. So of course you have to go knight e5, otherwise I'm just taking and mating you. So you have to go knight e5, bishop f4, bishop d6. Okay, now queen takes d5 probably also wins, but Morphy, as always, was a beautiful player. I couldn't really, talk about romantic games and not once show a Morphy game. So there it is. Bishop takes e5. So I tried to show at least the one game that's not the most famous one, that not everybody has seen. Bishop takes d5, bishop takes e5, rook takes. And that's why back then he played knight c3. Remember knight c3? So that in this position, he can go rook e1 with a tempo. And now, okay, if you go back, queen d5 is mate. So black win here. Bishop takes d5, and yeah, it's a quiet move, but we have three pieces attacking the king on d4. It's pretty clear that it's not going to be surviving, and in many different ways. So black tried this move, queen d3, b4. If king here, then I think you go queen check. And after this, check and mate. That's just one of the lines, probably more than one way to mate, so took here. And if king d6, you can even drop back here and it's mate. So you go here, and here black resigned. Because almost in any line it's mate. For example, king here, here, there, here, there, here. Probably white's mating in more than one ways. Three pieces attacking the open king. The rule is usually it will be mate. Okay, so now I would like to show you guys a more complicated game, Kasparov against Topalov. And that's also a relatively famous one, but I would say it was very romantic, so that's why I'll show you. So Kasparov was white against Topalov. That was in 1999. It was Pirc's defense. These are all pretty natural moves.
Is that a good idea for the bishop to take?
Well, if he castles, then I'm gonna go h4, h5, and go for a very big attack. So it's okay, because actually black has a flexibility of castling long here. So the idea is fine. Here in this position, I think white played a very nice move. So in the long run, white wants to castle long at some point. But if he does it here, then there's some queen a5, b4 ideas. So white played a very interesting prophylaxis move, a3. First, kind of keeping an eye on black's ideas, b4, c5, and so on. And then, going from there. So a3, prophylaxis first, and then he's going to continue with his attack. a5, e5, rook take castles, queen e7, king b1, a6, knight c1. So repositioning the knight to potentially more prospect squares. Castles long, knight b3. White is a little bit better, but black is definitely very much in the game. So he played e takes d4, rook takes d4, c5, rook d1, knight b6. So that's preparing d5, g3, king b8. And here, white made an inaccuracy. But then again, as often happens, in order to play a brilliancy, sometimes you have to play a little bit inaccurate. Otherwise, it won't be a brilliancy, it will just be a nice technical game, like a Carlsen type game where you just squeeze, squeeze, and win. But in order to produce a romantic game, sometimes you have to actually play a bit inaccurately. Maybe not on purpose, but it's like usually almost every brilliancy at some point has some inaccuracies from the winning side, one way or another, for whatever. Maybe it's a coincidence, but you know, again, that's what makes chess beautiful, that it's like more like an art rather than a science sometimes.
It gives us hope.
Yeah. So sometimes even if you make a mistake, it actually can, you know, that's, you know, gives you all hope that even if you make a mistake, it actually can make your game, you know, more beautiful later. So white played knight a5. The move objectively is a mistake because it's decentralizing and kind of makes the knight offside. For now, knight on b3 impacts the game a lot in this way because it prevents d5. So best move would be something like queen f4 and then g4, preparing some knight c5. Let's say king a7, and now you can go g4, knight takes c5. For example, you can't play d5 because of knight takes c5, so a move like that would have been better, or maybe bishop h3, d5, et, and rook e1. So basically, not letting black get d5 in so easily would have been a better idea, like playing more flexible. Keeping the knight on b3 for now, because knight a5 can at some point come anyway, but once you go knight a5, you lose your flexibility. Black goes there, and now d5 will be much easier for black to get in. And objectively speaking, black is fine here, maybe even better. So bishop h3 happened now, but now d5 came, and now there was, you know, no knight putting pressure on the center. So black was comfortably able to get d5 in. Maybe what Kasparov saw is queen f4, king a7, rook e1, and thinking, okay, he still has a very nice initiative. Okay, first of all, here maybe d takes e4 was also playable. But he played d4, knight d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen d6. Okay, so first critical moment in the game. What do you think white should do here? I mean, even if it's not objectively the best move, I think from a practical standpoint of view, it was definitely a good move, and I'll explain why. But first try to find it.
Rook to e4 work.
e4, you mean here? Or e5?
Oh, I'm sorry, 5, yeah.
Yeah, I think bishop takes d5, I just play. Rook e8, many ways I can. Yeah, basically what's happened in this position is that tides have kind of changed. And if you play in a normal way, like this, rook e7, I'll go king b6 and I'll take on d5. I'll be better at this point if you're playing in a normal way. So that's why, good or bad, you have to try to go for complications. At this point, you have to try to go for something interesting, because if you're going to go for something kind of dull, yours is going to be worse, you know, if you kind of play in a normal way, right? So,
Is it rook takes d4?
white played rook takes d4. So now, of course, if queen takes f4, you take with the rook. So black has to do something about it. Now, objectively speaking, the best move from practical standpoint of view, and maybe even objectively, was king b6. And then, okay, white would have nothing better than...
Can you show us what happens if the pawn just takes the rook?
That's, you know, we'll go through the game. You know, that was the game.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think bishop takes d5 was okay, after which, you know, you have complicated lines after rook takes d5, which lead to a very big mess. And also there is king b6, which, objectively speaking, black is actually doing quite well here. I mean, you can try something like knight b3, but the thing is, you can even just take on d5. You don't have to take the rook, which leads to some attacking possibilities. So king b6 was the best, but I guess he thought, okay, cd is also fine. But now white followed up with a brilliant continuation, which maybe Topalov overlooked, which doesn't quite win the game completely, but it certainly puts black on the edge.
Is that where the rook e7?
Yes. So now, if you go queen e7, you lose after queen takes d4, king b8, queen b6, bishop b7, knight c6, king a8, queen a7 mate. So that line is pretty easy. King b8 is also not so good because of queen takes d4, threatening this mate, which forces knight d7, bishop takes d7, and then the problem is this rook hangs also in a lot of lines. So you have to try this and c4, and white is doing very well here as well. And the reason we play c4 is otherwise this was a threat. So it's, I mean, unusual line, but this is good for white. So black played correctly, king b6, principled. Queen takes d4. And now black played king takes a5. There was also a line queen takes c5, queen takes f6, queen d6. But then bishop e6 was very powerful, which led to still a very complex game, probably good for white. But in the game, king takes a5 was played. b4, king here. Okay, so here we have a critical moment. So white is down a rook and a knight, but of course the king is on a4, so we're looking for ways to attack it. And in this position, technically speaking, Kasparov made a mistake. But of course, you know, to figure out why the best move is the best move is very hard. So I'll give you guys a chance. What do you think was best move for white here?
Now, if he moves the queen away, then the pawn, black takes the d pawn. And that's the pawn.
Well, black can take the d pawn anyway. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
can't really defend against that, really.
Right. So that would.
Rook a7. Rook a7 was actually the best move in the position. Rook a7 first. Because actually white in a way is not in a rush. You'll still need to play this move eventually. And here's the point. So black has two main defenses. Knight takes d5 and bishop b7. Because if you go bishop takes d5, then let's see. Just very quickly. Then you go queen c3, and then there is no defense from king b2 and queen b3. Sorry. Okay. So bishop takes d5, then you go queen b3, queen c3, and then there's no defense from king b3, king b2 and queen b3. So knight takes d5 though could have been the reason why he did not do that, because now there's no more queen c3, and black is actually threatening knight takes b4 and getting rid of the, the pawn formation that leads to the attack. But now white plays rook takes a6, double exclam, queen takes a6, queen b2. Now you needed to play rook takes a6, because if you don't do that, if you play queen b2 right away, then I think I can take this, and then I can go queen check. And after this, I can go there. And suddenly it's black who wins. Even this doesn't work because the pawn is capturable and black is just completely winning. So, So rook takes a6 was best move. And now queen b2. Knight takes b4 now is queen b4 mate. So queen b3 is threatened, so now the only move is knight c3. Queen takes. Bishop d5, king b2, queen e6, takes, queen b3 mate. Pawn mates, So that's beautiful, but maybe he missed that concept. There's also bishop b7, which was one of the defenses that black used in the game. Now you can take with the rook. And now there's two moves. So one move is queen takes d5. Then you go rook b6. Threatening mate. Rook a8 and queen takes f6, and Here white has a decisive attack. And there's also a beautiful line after a5. Here, here, and now queen e3. Preparing, this and this. So, and amazingly, white also wins. Rook takes a6, king b2, ab, ab, threatening queen a3, king takes, check and check. Again, all these lines, it's like for a human to calculate, it's almost impossible precisely. It's like you have to play on your intuition. And if knight takes d5, white has another absolutely beautiful move. Bishop d7. Like, I mean, good luck finding that in a real game. Rook takes d7, queen b2, knight c3. And then there's, again, some beautiful lines which end with like a mate threat. Again, that's why when we look at games in chess bomb, and let's say in this position the engine would say rook a7 is +9, queen c3 is equal. Well, for us following the game on chess bomb as fans, it's very easy to say, criticize, oh, what a patzer, this GM didn't find, this beautiful concept. But once it's like rook a7 is so obvious, you attack the mate, But of course, when you dig deeper and when people show the complicated variations, then it becomes clear that it's not just like a 1 or 2 move idea that you didn't see, that there's some huge subtlety 5 moves down the line, that it's sometimes unfair to criticize players based on what we see on the chess engines when we follow the top players' games. So in the game, queen c3 was played. Totally good looking human move, but black had a defense against this. Queen takes d5. So first point is, of course, not king b2 because of queen d4. So that's why rook a7 was important. Bishop b7. So now again, you have to be careful. So rook takes b7 was played. And in this position, black played...
Would king to b2 work in that case?
Queen d4 still.
Oh, okay.
So in the game, rook takes b7 was played. And now black has a few defenses. So rook e8, then you can go rook b6, rook a8, and bishop f1. With the idea of going king b2. And if you go king b2 right away, it's like there's queen e5. That's why you don't put the king right away there. But the thing is, it's one of these where black cannot do anything. It's very mysterious, but it's completely winning. For example, rook e1 here, you probably could just take that. It's like one of these semi-waiting moves where you're potentially in some lines preparing bishop takes b5 and black cannot really do anything.
So that's the threat right now.
It's not a threat right now, but it's an idea in some cases maybe. Sometimes it might be an idea. But really, we're looking at all these other ideas. And probably bishop f1 is some deep prophylaxis against something. But in any event, queen c4 was played in the game. Took on f6. And now it's black's turn to miss a very nice defense. Rook d1 was best move. Then, if you go queen d4, then you actually lose because there's no defense from this stuff. But you can go rook a8, queen b6, and now you can go queen d4, takes, rook f7, a5, just in time to create some counterplay. And I mean, yeah, you can go king b6 also, and this kind of endgame maybe is still some drawing chances, although probably it's winning for white. In the game instead, rook a8 was in the game, in the game, king takes a3 was played, queen takes a6, king takes b4, c3. Well, what else? You have to continue the attack, otherwise rook d1, queen c3 was coming. So c3. And now king c5 easily loses because of this.
King. If queen takes the pawn, then what?
Queen takes the pawn, you
then
just,
the-
yeah. And if king b3, then you go queen check, check, and you can probably go bishop f1 also, but rook e7 is more clinical. It threatens mate, and so black played king takes, and now queen a1 check. King has to keep going on a journey. If king here, then queen b2 check. So now queen b3 loses to this. King a4 loses to rook a7. King c5 loses to this. So king a5 is the only move. Check here on rook a. So king d2 is forced. Queen b2. And king d1. All right, how should the white continue the attack?
And the king to e3 was not good.
King e3, I think I go rook e7.
Yeah.
Queen g2.
Okay. You convinced me.
So king d1 was played. So I think I briefly showed the answer, but to those of you who haven't seen it, how should white continue the attack? Because it looks like white is running out of steam here. Very good. Yeah, because otherwise I'm threatening here. So you need to somehow deflect the queen. Now if queen takes here, how does white win in this position? Queen c2, very good. And then rook e7. So black had to go rook d2, only move. Okay, and now try to find the final blow.
Rook d7.
Rook where?
d7.
Very good. Yeah, and this is basically over because now there's just no way to defend the position. We're either losing the queen or we're losing or getting mated. So black took on d7, white took on c4, takes. And yeah, now I mean there's still practical chances even here with this pawn, but white of course was up to par here, his technique. He brings the queen back to try to guard. The point is you can't let the pawn get to c2. As long as you control the c2 square, you're in good shape. So that's why this would actually be a little bit inaccurate, I think, because after this, king goes to d2, and then eventually the rook can come around and start checking, and the pawn can get here. So it's very important to go there to threaten queen a4 and kind of get the queen to c2 before the black king can really do anything, before black can coordinate himself. So c3. So c3 happened, queen check. If king d2, then I probably queen c2. So king e1. And now white just played f4. It's, you know, just to not give up the pawn, basically. So white played f4, preparing king c2. Black played.
Better than the queen coming back. Okay.
Well, because if you queen coming back, then I'm just taking this pawn. So you don't really want to give up the pawn unless you have to, right? So that's why f4, because otherwise, if you're going to give up a pawn like this, there's more chances of a fortress at some point. Even if you win the c3 pawn, there might be some fortresses at some point. But if you keep the pawn there, it's very unlikely there's going to be a fortress with queen against rook. So f5, king c1. The most important thing is to maintain the pawn, basically, not allow any counterplay, and then the queen is actually better off actually just trying to win these pawns. So rook d2, trying to go after this pawn. And I think this is, yeah, now queen e7. And I think black resigned here because very nice geometrical move, because after this you go here. And otherwise, if you start winning these pawns, then the queen just takes it from there. And at this point, it's clear once the king is on c1, then black has no way to dislodge it, because black does not have a knight, a bishop, or even another pawn on the b file. So the king on c1 is totally safe, blockading the pawn. So usually in these kind of endgames, In an ideal world, you want the king being the blockader of the pawn and the queen being the aggressor, going after the pawns. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to win an endgame like that. Usually in these kind of endgames, the heavy pieces are the ones that are supposed to be the aggressive pieces, the aggressors, and attacking opponent's weaknesses, and the king is supposed to be the defender. You know, if you can get that kind of a setup, usually you're in good shape.
And if C2, then the queen just comes down.
Yeah, C2, first of all, there's not even a threat, but second of all, you can even win the rook, yeah. But even if there is no threat, because after check you can always go here. Only if the king comes here, then you have to be careful. Then it becomes a threat, but of course by then I can do queen d6 check or queen f5 or something like that. So yeah, well, with this complex game, I think, you know, I guess it's time to finish for today. So let's see if anyone has any questions for me today.
When did Kasparov put his watch back on in this game? At what point?
It's a good question, but I wouldn't know. I would read about it in some articles, probably mentioned somewhere, but